Welcome to Wheel of Prog. Woo! Welcome, everyone.
Hey, we got another wheel. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of Wheel of Prog. We're doing another great band here. We're doing DreamTheater. This is, I think, was the obvious next band to do. A lot of debate, a lot of arguing already in our chat group that we have on who should be on the podcast, who likes the band more, who knows the band better. So this one should be a lot of fun. We have Kyle, Geoff, and Dan joining me on this one. Hello, everybody.
Hey.
Hello, everybody.
So we should point out, because he wasn't on the first episode, the Wheel of Prog was in fact Geoff's idea. So let's all give Geoff a nice golf clap.
Woo!
Yes. Coming up with the idea.
He's the mastermind behind the wheel, just like he's the mastermind.
Well, it was a group effort, ultimately.
But this has come together nicely, and I think it's a lot of fun. So we added one element here. Let me go ahead and bring up the wheel for everybody.
Sure. Look at that wheel.
So we got the wheel here, and you'll notice, so DreamTheater has 15 albums. To make it even for everybody, Kyle politely suggested that we should add a wild card. So that's going to come into play in the second round for everybody, where if you get the wild card, you don't get to place an album, but you get to move an album around from a column. So basically how this is going to work, we have our tier. We use the wheel to spin. It lands on an album. Whoever is the person that gets that album puts it wherever they want in the tier. There has to be a max or a minimum of 3 per tier level. So that's our way of messing with this a little bit. We don't have, one album in tier S and 5 albums in tier A. There's 3 in each, which causes a lot of moving around and stuff like that. So if a row is full and then you get an album, you want to put it in there, you get the option to move one down wherever you want. And thus the infighting and arguing, which maybe might ensue. So here we go. I guess let's do this. I went last time, so I'm going to go first this time. Is that cool? And then we'll go
Sure.
Kyle, Geoff, and Dan.
Up to you, dude.
I'll
just say, man, this tier list is going to be fun to see how it develops. And definitely nobody's agreeing on anything because DreamTheater albums are like a tough topic. But
so before we get started, this is an interesting one because I think there's sort of like this consensus of a couple albums that everybody says are their best. That's pretty much most people agree. But then you could take 10 people to argue which albums are their 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, or worst. And everybody says literally something different. So I think Porcupine Tree, when we did it, was a little bit more obvious to do as it turned out. We all pretty much agreed, bar 1 or 2 albums sort of in the middle there. But I have no idea how this one's going to go. So, all right, let's do the first spin.
We've at least all listened to all the albums, so there's that.
Okay.
Train of
all
thought.
Right, I like that. I like
nice,
this album.
Yeah.
This is one
That's
of my
a cool
favorites.
way to start.
That's a favorite of mine.
Go, Roie. Where are you putting it?
Okay, where am I going to put it? Well, I'm going to go ahead and put this one all the way in, assuming I think I know what's going to be in tier A. I'm going to move this, in tier S for superior, the best one. I'm going to move this to tier A for now. I'm a big fan of this record. I think it's one of their most consistent from beginning to end, where I don't dislike any song. The instrumental's great. This Dying Soul is one of my favorites. And the last song, In the Name of God, I think is amazing. And then I think Budokan came out after this one, which was also awesome. Sort of reiterated those songs for me. So that's where I'm going with this one for now. Arguments?
So Geoff is shaking his head no. So
yeah,
Geoff,
I know it's not one of Geoff's favorites for sure, but I stand by that placement.
For me, it was a disappointing album. You'll hear from what I say before I don't go for the very heavy side of DreamTheater, and this album was very much that. And I think coming from the few albums that preceded it, really the only song that I really like in this album is Vacant, which is probably the one that most people don't like so much. But it's an album that I never listen to it because I would never put it on to play it through. I I do like it in the context of something like Budokan, where there's maybe a couple of the songs come in on their own, but as a whole, if it was me, it would be way lower.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I think
fair.
I like this album a lot.
Preferences.
I used to like it less actually, but listening to it more recently, I noticed how creatively they used the heavy aspect as a part of the song and like the theme. You know, I thought like before songs like Under the Father, they're heavy just for the sake of being heavy. Now I think they really use that aspect well. And like Stream of Consciousness is a brilliant instrumental song. Um, I mean, Dying Soul is a classic. As I Am is a song I don't really care for that much, but it's really popular, so that speaks
Yeah.
about the quality, you know. So,
Dying Soul is just, I love that one a lot.
yeah.
Okay, Kyle,
Well,
you're up.
Yeah, it would have gone a little lower for me, but it's okay. It's okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
It might
So
be
what?
moved
okay,
down.
starting
Let's
point.
see
What
how
a-
it goes.
Well, if Geoff gets the option, he definitely will. All right. What am I gonna get? I'm gonna guess that I get an album that I'm
falling
really
into
not.
infinity.
Hey, all right.
Hey.
This is a great one for me to get.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
glad you got it because you like it just like me.
So I have to say this is funny because on most rank lists, Train of Thought appears higher than I think it should. For me, it's probably a B tier album. Falling in Infinity, on the other hand, it shows up way lower than it ever deserves to show up. And if you know the history of Dream Theater, this was during a time where they were working with Kevin Shirley, who had just come off success from some other albums. And it just was kind of a mess of an album experience. However, I think it's a great album. Some of the bonus tracks that showed up later on Cleaning Out the Closet are really cool too. But this is Derek on the keys. We've got Lines in the Sand on this. We've got what else we've got on there that's really good.
Trial of Tears. Trial of
just
Tears
like
is a
Breeze,
favorite for me.
awesome.
New
Brilliant,
Millennium.
guys.
New Millennium is good.
It is a
Actually
bit of a
think-
confused album, like
Yeah,
kind of
Definitely.
in some ways. But I really like that cycle. I like the videos from that era too, like the behind the scenes stuff from what is that, a year and a half in the life of? No, that's a Metallica thing. 5 years in a lifetime.
5 years in a lifetime.
yeah.
Yeah.
Once in a lifetime. Yeah, yeah.
I actually
Once in a
think if you took off a few songs, if this was one of their shorter out with less songs, if you took off You Not Me, Burning My Soul, and Just Let Me Breathe, I think this is a much more enjoyable album and more
Hell's
proggy.
Kitchen is awesome.
Hell's
Like
Kitchen is
I
good.
love Hell's Kitchen. So for me, I'll just be honest. This is an A tier album.
Are you kidding?
and-
Really?
Not
A?
kidding at all. Yeah,
I'm with you, dude. We're brothers.
I think it's
Wow,
awesome.
This is B or C for me, but okay.
I think that I remember with this coming out and putting on and hearing New Millennium at the start, and it sounded really fresh to me. Like it sounded like a kind of a new kind of sound. And the other thing that I always, when I think about this album, that like Alan Holdsworth sort of style solo in Trail of Tears is one of my favorite John Petrucci moments of kind of all time. And Derek plays some amazing. To me, Trail of Tears is kind of the Derek showcase.
It's also got the best album
Good
art
era.
that Dream Theater ever had. Hugh Simey did this. It's great.
Yeah, it's really great.
I'm
No, I
admittedly
think-
a much bigger fan of this album than probably the bulk majority of fans.
Oh,
But it
well,
sounds like
I will point out. I don't know if you can see the poster above my head there, but that is a Falling into Infinity signed poster of all albums.
Nice. Dude, yeah,
But
like
that's a bit high for me. I doubt one or both of those albums is not staying in B. I'm just gonna
this
say.
drum set was used on the Falling to Infinity cycle, so there is that. I don't know. That
All right,
matters.
let's
Yeah,
move
there's
on.
an
'Cause we got
emotional
a lot
aspect.
of albums. All
I'll
right,
say an album with Trial of Tears and Lines in the Sand in it cannot be bad. So
Jeff, you're up.
it's one of my favorites too.
Ooh.
Please let it be the astonishing.
That's an interesting one too.
I want to hear your take on it, Jeff.
Okay. Black Clouds. So I love the covers disc.
Me too.
I think it is brilliant. I really like the songs I really like in this album. Best of Times is one of my favorite Dream Theater songs. Wither, I think, is a really great song. And I think what I mean by that is that I think it's really good songwriting as opposed to really good kind of, technical type things. I think those are songs that really good songwriting. we're gonna kind of smirk a bit because we have been talking about the Count of Tuscany, and I know there's different views on it in the group. I think it's a fantastic epic. I think it's a really, really good epic. So a lot of time for it. The rest of the album, not so much. For me, it's probably at best it's a B tier. So I think because I like those 3 songs so much, I'll put it in B.
And so you like half of the album?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
Well,
fair.
You said, I'm sorry, D, right?
B. B.
Oh, you said B. Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
B.
cool.
I think that's about right, honestly. No,
That's
B,
A, right?
not A.
Oh, sorry.
I have to say that when this album ever comes up, it's so funny. Geoff, I didn't know we were so similar when it came to Dream Theater. The covers disc is incredible.
Oh, so I'll say, as far as covers discs, my personal view on covers discs is that I never listen to them by any band ever. I have no interest. So there's that.
Have you never listened to it?
Maybe once.
Oh, it's so good.
That's
I don't
very good.
care for the covers disc from Dream Theater. I don't care for the covers disc from Transatlantic. I don't care.
Nah, dude, that's
Flick,
crazy.
Flick of the Wrist is great.
Lark's
Odyssey is
Queen,
awesome.
right?
Queen
Once,
stuff.
and then I went to listen to Queen's version. I just don't care. This is my personal just thing. That's my Jeffism for this
It doesn't
podcast.
really count. There's a
But
bonus
anyway,
disc that doesn't-
no, but I will say I'm okay with it being in B. For me personally, I might put it in A. I like this album a lot. Count of Tuscany's at this point is now my favorite Dream Theater song. It has been for a while. Nightmare to Remember, I think, is amazing. Best of Times is great. I think this whole album's good. I even listened to Rite of Passage the other day, and I thought, hey, this is actually a pretty good song. It's a song I totally forgot about.
Yeah, Rite of Passage and Wither are 2 songs that I don't really care about. I think
yeah,
like Shadow
Fortress,
Fortress,
finishes
great.
up. It's good.
Yeah.
But Count of
It does a
Tuscany
job, yeah.
for me is, I think that's just amazing. So, but okay, I can live with B for now. That's cool. All right, who's up?
For
Dan.
now.
It's me.
For now.
Let's spin the wheel, everyone.
Daniel.
Woo!
Woo!
And
Where
I
will
always
this
get good
go?
ones, dude. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Move on. Next.
Yeah, S tier for Images and Words.
Well, at least we can agree on that.
Yeah, it's an amazing album. I wish it sounded better production-wise. It's the only thing bad I can say about it. But to be honest, it's part of its charm. I like the drum sounds. That's the snare that sounds like I'm tapping my car wheel. It's that same kind of frequency. Anyways, Pull Me Under is a classic. It's their most well-known song. Another Day is one of the best ballads ever. Take the Time. I'm just listening to the track list, I guess, but Metropolis it's the Dream Theater song that you recommend someone, as my personal close friend James Labrie just said the other day. And my favorite, I don't know what your favorite it's on the album, but mine's probably Learning to Live.
Learning to Live is awesome.
Yeah. That ending, it's how to close an album. It's just perfect.
For me,
The
this album
combination,
is this album has reached kind of Dark Side of the Moon status, where I know it's my favorite album, and I know it's one of their best, maybe their best. I just never ever listen to it, and I never want to listen to it. But it had a greater effect on me than possibly any album I've ever listened to in my life growing up. So yeah, that's what it is.
So I'm not going to pass up an opportunity to talk about snare sound, but the producer on this was David Prater. And one of my favorite memories of reading their book about this making of this album, which was kind of a mess, was that he had used that snare sound that Daniel's talking about on a Firehouse album, which is just a great little nugget. And anyway, so yeah, I think this album for me would be absolutely their best if they could fix some of the sounds. But I think Daniel said it well, like that's just part of the sound of it, and it works. Yeah. I like, this is true of Awake as well. I like the kind of ethos or like cinematic kind of feel
dude.
that I get emotionally from this album and Awake that is really not present on their other stuff. It's just there's something
Exactly.
unique about.
There's like an
the guy-
echoing or a weird like soundscape thing in both of these albums that is nowhere else.
Yep, best song list of any of their albums, I think. But all right,
Yeah.
I digress.
You know what? I
My,
just think it honestly was the fact that we had never heard anything like this at the time when it came out. I mean, that's what it is. Now you look back and some of their stuff that comes out now, you go, well, it's not original. They did it before or whatever. Yeah, because they did it. They like, but before that, there wasn't anyone that you could say that with. It's like,
Yep,
it was like,
they
it was
invented it.
Yes, but it was also Metallica. Like it was, and it was the most impressive thing I think we'd ever heard.
I had heard bits and pieces of Dream Theater, but back in the day when music wasn't quite so accessible, and I was sort of slightly hesitant to risk buying Images and Words. So I bought Live at the Marquee and really liked it. And it's got Metropolis, it's got Surrounded, it's got Pull Me Under on it, and they're really amazing versions, which totally sold me on the whole thing. And then when I got Images and Words, and I went, oh, these don't quite sound as good. I remember that going, actually, they sound way better on those songs sound way better on the live album.
Yeah.
But yeah,
but I think we're all in
everything.
agreement that it has to be an S, right? That's
Absolutely.
Go. So we've got
Surrounded is one of your favorites, right, Geoff?
Yeah, no, I love it.
Yeah.
Because it was sort of the first kind of pretty much one of the first ones that I really, really liked.
Yeah, great song.
Okay, I'm up again. Let's see. So now the wild card's in play. Just
You're definitely getting Astonishing.
somebody lands on
Write it down.
He's dying to move Falling into Infinity.
I wouldn't move it.
This is an issue. The way this wheel has gone has been very interesting.
Yeah,
I like it.
Dude. I wish I got that one because I have a lot to say about it. Yeah.
Boy, this is a tough one.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's the first album they did since Portnoy had left the band at the time. The drum sound, not ideal, is how I'll put it.
Least.
This album for me, I'm trying to remember all the songs in it. They don't all come to mind, but I think about half of it I really like, and then the other half I sort of can take or leave. But it does have maybe top 5, top 10 song for me by the band with Breaking All Illusions, which I think is amazing by any standard of any lineup of the band, and I would totally rank it up there. So that's sort of, without that song, it might be a D tier album for me. But with that song, I'm gonna put it in C.
Okay. It's also got Bridges in the Sky with the.
And again, it's not an album I dislike. I just know how I feel with some other albums. Instead.
Yeah, this is a little bit painful for me because I think this is by far their best Mangini era album.
Wrong.
And sorry, I'm right, but I just
wrong.
think it's. I mean, the thing is, what makes this album probably people overlook it sometimes is that it's not Mangini playing. He's just playing the drum machine notes. There's zero room for expression on his side, and that's a downside, I think. But
Are we sure it's even him playing the drum? It sounds so digital. I'm not trying to be negative. The drum sound is so bad.
Yeah, it's very bland, and that's the only negative aspect.
Well, it's really low in the mix too. It was just so bizarre at the time hearing it.
Yeah, I think it's
and live it were much better. Obviously, the songs worked much better.
There are a couple of sucky songs like "Build Me Up, Break Me Down," and I think like "This Is the Life." It's like okay, but "Lost and Unforgotten," "Bridges in the Sky," "Outcry," "Breaking All Illusions."
On the Backs of Angels is good.
Those are good. Yeah,
the Backs of Angels.
Right, I'm saying so about half of it is
amazing,
really solid,
songs.
and
the thing
but,
is,
but half is really not amazing.
Jeff, where does it rank? Go ahead, Daniel. Sorry.
And just finishing my thought. This is, I think, they still had a lot of very, very good vocal melodies on this album, and I think that kind of washes away after the self-title, and it's where the albums get a little for me, you know. And I'll talk about this more later, but I think this is the kind of breaking point on that aspect. So it's why I like this album so much. I think it's very creative. It's the only gap on it. It's the drums, and of course the drums are what makes a lot of the Dream Theater sound good. But I don't know, man. I really love this one.
Yeah. I think I enjoyed when it came out. I enjoyed this one probably kind of more instantly than many of the kind of ones that had come before it. I thought it was really good. I think any album with a unicyclist on the cover is always worth your attention.
Yeah.
And
how many albums is that exactly?
I have no idea.
Two actually. Fun fact: there's a Circus Maximus album.
I was going to say Circus Maximus. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is exactly how do you call it? The image with the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I again I say this about, I've said this I think about or 3 or 4 things already. The Live at Luna Park, when you listen to the versions of the songs from that, and they're way better. I
was there.
Sounds so much better. Were you? Yeah. Cool.
It was a cool tour. I remember that tour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
for me, I'll just quickly say I think this is an album when it first came out. I don't think I could have hated it any more than I did. I was very disappointed. And as much of a Portnoy fan as I am, I was totally willing to accept the band with a new drummer. But I mean, the sound of the drums on Black Clouds, in my opinion, is the best the drums have ever sounded on a DreamTheater album. To go from that to the worst they've ever sounded, literally, was such a disappointment as a drummer and a lover of the band. And so I was just like completely out. As I've revisited it, trying to ignore that and just, I almost have to think of it like demos. That's how the drums sound to me. It actually is a strong album. I don't think it's any higher than C tier for me, but I see it show up a lot of times on the lists towards the very bottom, and I don't know that it really deserves that. I actually think they tried to recapture the early sound of the band on this album, and I think they were successful on quite a few of the tracks. But anyway, I think
sorry, man. There was this whole theory about it being like the same track listing as Images and Words. You remember reading that?
Yeah.
And it kind of rings true in a way. And I don't know. I think this is a really strong album.
Yeah. Okay.
This is the magic.
I might have put it. Where would you have put it, Daniel? Would you have put it in B?
Yeah.
I think
just because there are a lot of other amazing albums, but this is the one I like the most from the
all right.
Mangini
Next,
era.
Kyle.
It's a C tier for me, so I'm happy.
We're in agreement.
All right.
Okay.
What do we got?
Cool.
Well.
It's a free.
I wonder where this is gonna go. Yeah, I know. I'm kind of disappointed to be honest.
Well,
but
what's that over your shoulder?
That's Hey, this is the drum set that he used in Europe on that tour cycle. Yeah, it goes in S tier. Obviously,
is it number 1 or number 2?
Yeah, it's their best album. I don't really think there's any argumentation to be made about it. It is probably my favorite certainly progressive metal album, but I guess in terms of like greatest progressive album of all time, it's up there with I guess Dark Side of the Moon probably wins out. But what a fantastic album. This is actually the first album that I listened to by DreamTheater, so it holds a special place in that regard. And so Regressions, the opening track, like to hear the little tick tock of the clock, and then to go into like the spoken word part is like a, I don't know, 16, 17-year-old. It was totally mind blowing. I actually remember the first I listened to this was over the phone. My friend Kyle was like, "You got to hear this." You know, it's like that scene in Back to the Future where, you know, my cousin Marvin.
You had a different friend named Kyle?
I still have a friend named Kyle. His name's Kyle Dickerson. Yeah, but we were in bands together, and he called me because he had bought this at the at Hastings, like the record store, and he was like, "This is incredible. You got to hear it." And so then he brought it the next day. So on a bus, I remember listening to on a compact disc player, like a Walkman, listening to this album and just being completely blown away. So it still holds up. I think it sounds great. Huge turning point for the band. What more can you say?
Yeah, I don't think we need to all rehash the whole history of the album.
Yeah, we have a whole podcast just on this album.
Yeah,
and I think all of us were there.
We did.
I made some notes last night just thinking through, and what I wrote down for scenes from a memory was everything. That was all I wrote.
Yeah, everything about it is great. Yeah,
I mean, James went to some extra effort to work on his vocals on this album. I think he worked with like a specific like vocal coach who had been with Rush. I think I read that in the book, and his vocals sound great.
I didn't know that. Yeah,
thematically, I mean, the story of it is really solid. The live album on this is great too. So, anyway, Scenes from New York.
If you never heard of Scenes from a Memory here on this DreamTheater podcast, make sure to check it out, man.
Yeah.
Exactly. You really got to hear this.
Yeah. Okay, let's just go ahead and move on to the next one. Geoff.
Sure.
Oh, it's me? Oh, cool.
It's going to be The Astonishing. I just know it. Just know it.
Uh-oh.
Here it
Ah.
Well,
The
by my
one
train of thought.
person, the one
Okay,
person
Geoff.
who you didn't want to get a wild card. Right?
Actually, I want you to
Goodbye,
get it
train
because I
of thought.
thought
Actually, it's
know.
okay because now you can't move the astonishing to S tier.
Yeah, I know.
Easy.
I think I know what you're
Easy.
gonna move.
This is easy. Well, of the ones on the board, I'm pretty much in agreement, apart from Train of Thought. So I would move Train of Thought to C.
Ooh, that's hard for Roy. That's painful for
Yeah,
Roy.
Well, he didn't move it to
It's
D,
all
so
right.
that's okay.
Yeah.
I
Well,
can live with it. I can live with it.
I wish I
think
had
it's
another
better than
wild
that,
card,
but-
so I put C tier above B tier, and I would be happy. Just
Yeah, it's so weird doing the game like this, right? It's
It could have been
Yeah.
worse. I could have put it in D. It probably is.
yeah, exactly.
But I'm
So
being
I
kind.
thank you for that.
What's funny is if you Google like Dream Theater rank list, there's a pretty small contingent that thinks Train of Thought is like their best album. So like people who really like heavy music, like I bet
Well,
Vic
yeah,
really likes it.
If you're on the heavier side, then you think it's the album you were waiting for them to make, and so yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Speaking of Vic, it's fun that he's not here because his tier list is just a mess. It's
yes.
Sorry, Vic. I'll talk about you later, dude. Okay, The Astonishing. So the old famous The Astonishing. It's going on D tier. Spoilers, but
Did you
in
say D?
preparation,
Did you say
D?
D?
Yes,
D.
D as in Daniel. Yeah, and The Astonishing. In preparation of for this podcast, I was listening to it, so you can see right here. I listened to a
Track
lot of
one.
their most recent albums, and I
Track
needed a fresh perspective to see if my opinion had changed on this album and what I like and what I don't. And the thing is that I do like this album. I just like it less than all the other ones. And the thing
I
is,
think that's a fair way to describe it.
yeah. So this album, it's way too long, way too long. It could have been cut in like 4 parts and be a better album. And on the songs that I really like are Gift of Music, A Life Left Behind, Tempting Offer, A New Beginning, Moment of Betrayal. I think it's probably my favorite song on here. Walking Shadow is good, but it loses me all the time. It's like, oh man, this part's really good, and then it has like 3 ballads that are like with like uninteresting melodies, and it kind of loses me a lot. I don't think it's a terrible album. I think if you go to it thinking, okay, I'm going to listen to this rock opera 2-hour long album with lots of ballads and lots of small slow moments, and there's a story, and sometimes there's like 1 minute of just machine sounds, then you're gonna love it. But I don't see a lot of people doing that. So, I mean,
Well, let's be honest. We may not love the album, but the app and the book really excellent.
and the
stuff. Right,
game.
sorry. I'm sorry.
I'll
Roy,
say
I promised.
we should let Geoff speak about this because
Yeah.
we do know it's one of his favorites. But I will say I think there's a few songs in here I really like. As a whole album, it's a long listen. That's the main drawback behind it. If it was one disc, I think it works probably better for most people to sit and absorb it. A Life
I like
Left
disc
Behind,
two
I think, is
better.
one of the best songs. I love that one.
Which one?
A Life Left Behind, which I really like a lot. That's the one that always sticks out for me. But yeah, is it warranted to be on the bottom tier of a list? Maybe not, but compared to these
It is.
albums, I would say it is.
Oh yeah, in that sense, yeah, I agree.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a prog report trope. I think my love for The Astonishing, but I need to explain that because I really didn't like the self-titled album, and this one came out, and I thought, well, concept album, and I kind of figured from what I'd read about it. So the day that I got it, I sat down played it from start to finish with the booklet that has the libretto that kind of explains. It's hard to navigate because it's only one person singing an entire musical. That is a challenge, right? but from the start, I pretty much got what was going on. And, I think the thing about this is, they didn't sit down, they didn't just go into the studio and suddenly come up with, a concept album, with musical overtones. They deliberately set out to do this in their style. And I think if you take it as that, it's really, 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 really well done. And I enjoyed it. And then I happened to have a trip planned to London where the very first live performance of it in the London Palladium was being played, and I went on to a ticket reseller. I got a ticket, so I got to see it live for the very first time, and they played it, and that was it. But all the visuals, all the stuff that went with the show was really, really good, and it kind of had a slightly heavier edge. Again, the whole thing of live stuff sounded really, really strong. I think it's a shame that they didn't put out kind of a full DVD kind of version of it, because I think that probably would have helped people get into it. But obviously it got such a reaction that was never going to happen. It's not, I certainly wouldn't put it in D in terms of my kind of favorite DreamTheater albums. I would have it way higher up. But I also understand why people don't like it.
Where would you put it?
Well, for me, it's probably A,
Wow. Okay.
Because I just really, really got it and enjoyed it.
Well, we'll see if you can move it up.
Yeah,
I think we should move on.
Yeah, it depends on how you got it. You need to really be a fan of the concept and the whole thing. Because to me, I sometimes listen to it, and I'm not really a lyrics guy, but it catches me off guard. Like my music player, that kind of thing. You need to be.
Did any of you see it live?
No.
No, but I heard the live show was impressive.
Yeah, a lot of people say that.
It was absolutely brilliant. It was really, really good.
And a lot of people just walked out of the theater too.
All right, Dan, that was you, right? So I'm next.
That was me, yeah.
All right, what are you gonna get?
Lord
Nefarious.
Two left for each.
Man, that's no fun.
Yeah, that isn't any fun, is it? When Dreamin' Day Unite.
We reached the bummer part of the podcast. Sorry, guys.
Where else can you put it?
With apologies to our good friend Kyle Graves.
Yeah.
This is gonna have to go in the bottom for me.
Yeah.
There's some good moments on this song, but on this album, but for me, it's just not the same band. Vocally, sonically, it's early. They didn't find exactly what they wanted to write. It's just, it's just not an album I listen to. Yeah. I mean, if that was the only album they had and I put it on sort of by itself and said, check this out, I'd probably go, yeah, this is pretty good. There's some good stuff on there. But compared to all of these, it's clearly on the bottom for me just because it's just not one I listen to be honest.
Yeah.
There's
some cool songs that show up.
I really love.
Yeah.
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 You go
show up No, I was gonna say it shows up in some live concerts later, and we did a cover of "Only a Matter of Time," which pretty cool song, and Yitzy Jam is good and
classic. The Killing Hand, I think, is my favorite. That and the ones who helped set the sun, the one who helped to whatever.
The ones who helped
that song is great.
Yep.
Yeah.
The ending of Afterlife as well is one. There's a brilliant kind of keyboard guitar kind of trade-off thing. And then
as a first album, it's pretty solid, to be honest.
I would love to know what Kyle Graves would say. I think for me, if you take it of its time as a debut album for a band, I think it's a pretty strong album. I just feel that Charlie Dominici's vocals are at odds with everything else that's going on. And in fact, there's When Dreamin' Day Reunite, where James sings most of the songs, and I think with that lineup, better production, better sound, some of the songs are really, really killer. So I do think it's kind of hampered by being of its time, and the production being of its time. It's not that there's for a new band, to write some of the stuff on there, is a great achievement. But like you, I don't listen to it that much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
agree.
that's
I
fair.
think if it was re-recorded, it would be like at least B tier, A tier. You know, like
I don't know. I wouldn't say A, but yeah, I agree.
B tier.
You're just
Okay.
putting
It
everything
wouldn't
in A
be. It
tier.
wouldn't be
Everything is in
D
A
tier.
tier. I like them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say
All
it
right.
like that.
Kyle.
I'm hoping for something that I feel equipped to rank.
You feel equipped to rank this.
Oh, see, this is a hard one for
Go,
me to
go, go,
rank.
go, go, go. Ah, got saved.
All right, Octavarium. So this is
one of
actually
those weird albums. to
Which one
rank.
did you want?
this is I don't know. This is I want Awake, honestly, but I'll take Octavarium. So I bought this album. I was in Italy studying abroad, and I went to a record store in Florence and bought this. And it was one of those things where it's still CD player era. It was like on the cusp of iPod era. And so I had this. I had Spock's Beard, Octane, had a handful of other albums, and I just listened to them over and over and over. Or no, Feel Euphoria, or was it Octane? It's one or the other. But anyway, and so I really have a certain emotional, nostalgic connection to this album. At the same time, when I go back and listen to it, there's a lot of stuff that feels like them kind of copying and pasting other musical styles of other bands. Like, oh, that's the Muse song, or whatever. Conceptually, though, I really like it. I think Octavarium in particular is a really strong song. So I'm inclined to put it in A tier, but there's also part of me that thinks it's a B tier album. So I'm kind of between those two. But looking at what else is available, for me, 6 Degrees is definitely A tier.
Well, don't go ranking all the albums.
Well, I'm not trying to rank them all. I'm just trying.
Yeah, I think you want A. That's
I think
what
it's
you
A
want.
or B. I'll go A. I'll go A tier with it.
Yeah.
It's a good album. I like the concept of the different octaves for each song shifting, and conceptually, I like the idea of the album. There's a couple songs where it's like, oh, those don't feel great to me, but it's A tier. Let's do it.
A killer opener.
I wouldn't argue with you of it. I'm more of a B probably for it because of the 2 or 3 songs that, like you said, just feel out of place. Never Enough being one of them. But Solitary Suns, the title track, These Walls, Root of All Evil are really great. There's the song that sort of sounds like Coldplay or something, which feels
there's
weird.
a U2 song too. I Walk Beside You's kind of
I Walk Beside
lame.
You is just it's a song I really don't like.
I'm with you, Geoff. I like this whole album. I think it's great.
I like this album more now. I'll be honest. When it first came out, I was really bummed about it.
You see, my take in this is that for me, this is an album that start to finish, I don't tend to skip anything. I think there's brilliant variety, and I just love how Octavarium at the end pulls it all together. It's just a great start to finish listen, and I can't say that about very many of the albums on this list.
Okay,
let's spin the wheel.
We're down to
It's funny, there's a lot of the
left.
Mangini era albums are left too.
I know. It's wild. Oh, see, that's the one I wanted.
Yeah, well,
I have a fear here that this is going to get ranked incorrectly.
I trust you, Geoff.
I think you might be right, unfortunately. Let's see where Geoff is going to put this amazing
drum roll. Yeah.
So
Geoff opens by saying, "My favorite song on this album is The Silent Man."
What if I mean, for me, this is I'm sorry, I know this flies contrary to everybody. This was an album that I didn't love. Certainly compared to, again, my order of hearing them, being the Live at Marquee, then Images and Words. This one, I don't know. I mean, 6 o'clock, great start, great opening track. DreamTheater have the best opening tracks on so many of their albums. They really, really do. I liked I liked A Mind Beside Itself. That trilogy I think is really strong. For me, Lifting Shadows as well probably are the ones that I would gravitate to. The rest of the album for me, I don't know, it just didn't really ever click.
Space Divest?
Space Divest is so good.
Scarred?
These are Geoff songs.
Yeah,
this is a Geoff album.
I don't know why
this is a Geoff album.
So in my order, just because it never really resonated with me, it's a C.
Ugh,
Well, they didn't put it in D.
But
it's
but
so bad.
but that does give you the opportunity
Ugh.
that if you want to if someone puts something else in C, then they can move it to a different place. So
Sure,
if
that's
you want,
very charitable of you. For me,
Funny.
Awake
That's where it is for me.
it's an S tier album for me.
Yeah.
I love it.
I would
three
put
album.
it in A, not in S. But yes, I agree. It's
It's
For
high.
so
me,
good.
I mean, there's only two options for a third place, and this is one of them. To me, yeah. So I respect your opinion, Geoff.
This
I
is
really
a
do.
top 4 album for me, for sure.
Same.
Yeah.
fourth
Okay.
then.
Yeah.
Next, well, this is the beauty of the Wheel of Prog, everybody.
Yeah.
No-
Oh my
no-
God, I hate the Wheel of Prog.
No Dream Theater album has had a cooler like cinematic vibe than Awake. Like it.
Yeah, dude. Like the mirror
Oh.
into lie. Come on.
Mm. All right, who's up? Daniel.
It's me.
Oh,
Shift
no.
that album.
No,
everybody.
No. I don't want to talk about this album.
It's like-
No, okay.
I love
Let,
this. This is
let me.
amazing.
Okay.
Oh,
The
God.
album I really wanted to have was Distance Over Time because I would have put it in D tier. Just kidding.
Don't rank other people's albums.
Yeah.
All right,
sorry,
put this in
sorry,
C and
sorry.
move Awake to
Do your
S.
job.
No, I am doing my job. I'm going to the track listing and seeing what I love
What's
and what
on
I
it?
don't.
You have an
exactly.
opportunity to correct something here if you do it correct, if you do it right.
Yeah, let me see if I'm taking. They have way too many lost not forgotten albums. Hey, wait a second.
I know it clogs up their Spotify, doesn't it?
Yeah,
This
it's
one has,
awful.
I will tell you. So, The Alien, it has Answering the Call, which is one of your favorite songs.
It is.
Sleeping Giant is great. The title track is great. Awaken the Master.
So I think this album has two amazing songs, and that's the title track and Answering the Call. The rest of the album is at worst okay. So I think this is one of the good ones. This is my second favorite Mangini album. That said, I don't think it's above C tier at all. So I'm putting it on C tier and I'm moving Awake up if that's okay with you guys. Because it's
Fine.
definitely
Where are
okay
you
for
moving
me.
Awake to?
To be no, I mean to anywhere. I can put it anywhere.
Yeah, move it anywhere.
Oh, so I'm putting it in S tier. I don't think that's how it should work. I think it should be bumped up.
Just go.
I think it should move wherever you want it. I think you
it
can
goes
move
wherever
it.
you want.
Yeah, move it to S tier, and then Roie will probably come back
because it can
around
be
and
moved again later by somebody.
yeah.
I guess so. Put it in S tier because that's where
Yes!
it belongs.
This
I
is,
mean,
what a redemptive arc for this podcast.
This is like when this is like in a sporting event when somebody there was a fumble and it was returned for a touchdown.
I'm sorry,
That's
Geoff,
amazing.
dude. I'm sorry.
Oh no,
man.
that's right. That's how the game works. That's okay.
But
is
to
great.
talk about the album,
I don't think I
This
would.
is like Les Miserables. This is a
for
big
me,
deal.
in the scheme of their albums, View is at least a B tier album. I think it's excellent from beginning to end. It's my favorite of the Mangini era.
Huh.
And I think they won a Grammy for it. Not that that means really anything in the scope of
It
things
doesn't.
what we're talking about.
For one track.
But Sleeping
Yeah.
Giant's awesome. Awaken, Answering the Call, sorry, is awesome. The title track
Yeah,
is
I like
great.
Awaken
I
the
don't think there's a bad
Master.
song on it. So the production on this album's amazing.
Yeah, and that's its saving grace. I'm kidding.
I know.
For
I
me-
agree with that.
for me,
Drums sound great on it.
For me, the title track is so far head and shoulders above the rest of the album that the rest
Yeah.
of it, I kind of.
Yeah, I think
skip.
C's low,
It's funny.
but
It's not
at
my
least
favorite.
it's not
I
D.
think
I can't believe
I
the
think
albums that are
Answering
in
the
C.
Call is so good. It's the riffs are. I don't know.
I'm gonna need
amazing.
another good album so that I can move some stuff around or something because I have.
You don't have any B's or C's, Roy.
This is
All
going
right.
well. This is
You
going
skipped
well.
2 letters.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think Roy is getting 6
so-
degrees.
You went. Now it's my turn. Okay, so let's
You're
see.
definitely
Four,
getting
and
6
then
degrees,
there
Roy.
were 4.
Boy,
Yeah.
this is come on, 6 degrees.
If you get
I'm
6
hoping-
degrees, I'm curious where
yeah.
you're gonna put it.
Ooh, I am
he's-
gonna get it.
No,
No, distance over time.
Ah, no,
yes.
this sucks.
Yes.
I like this over time anyway, but yeah.
Exactly, that's the problem.
Boy, this is tricky, man. All right. What are we gonna do?
You should put it in C and then bring Train of Thought back up. Just saying.
I think I might do that.
Because what I would do, I would just put it in D. But
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this album.
yeah,
but
same.
Me
Okay,
neither.
I do like this
A
album,
solid D album.
but because
Yeah.
I like this album, but because I want to move Train of Thought up, I'm gonna do that. I don't think that's a C tier album, but
I agree.
I
It's a
don't
D
think
tier
Train
album.
of Thought is a C tier album. So
now, in
you
fairness,
but-
you
but
can
hang
put
on,
Train of
you could've-
Thought.
You could have
wherever you
put it
want.
in B or A. Why are you putting it in C?
so that I could move Train of Thought up.
You know, it has to go
But-
in C.
But what you've just said is I've put it in C, but it's not C.
Well, he had to
Because I
take.
wanted to move Train of Thought up.
Yeah, he's playing the game.
Okay.
And the game involves not being always.
Where would you
agree
rank
with
it,
you
Roy?
100%.
Where would you rank Distance Over Time? Probably B for you.
Yeah. I
'Cause
think
it's a D-
View
it's
and
a D
Distance
for me.
Over Time are both B's for me.
Whatever
At
that's
Wit's
worth.
End-
Doesn't
At
matter. What
Wit's
does it
End
matter?
alone is amazing. There's some
Which
really
one?
good songs at Wit's End.
Oh yeah, that's the best song on the album, and one of the best.
There's some good
Mangini era
songs on that record. You're sleeping on this album, I'm telling you. All right.
Mm.
Well, that's my 4 picks.
Okay.
All right.
Well done.
I wanted. Okay. Well, we'll see.
This is gonna be a weird 3, man.
It's got. This is
Right?
a weird.
Oh no! This is the one I feel like the least equipped to rank.
I'm already wanting to redo this whole episode.
I like this album. I like it better than Distance Over Time. Come on, Kyle.
Ooh.
I actually think it's a better album than it gets credit for. And I'm not someone that just likes something because someone doesn't, or vice versa. But there's some good songs on this. So I'm looking at the track list.
As soon
False
as we're
Awake.
done, let me know because I want to go on a tangent about one song. at a
Listen,
time.
Enemy
Consider
Inside,
the albums
Illumination
that-
Theory is
Let me
good.
just say this. Let me offer something.
Sounds good. Go ahead.
Look at the albums left, and consider one of the albums that in C should probably be in B before you make your decision.
I don't see an album in C that should be in B, personally. Just being honest.
Compared to the ones that are left, because we still have other spots.
It's time to play the game.
I honestly, I like how everything is ranked, except, I mean, Distance Over Time, for me, the songs on an album are just not as creative or as interesting to me as what's on the self-titled. So I'm sorry, Roy. I'm going to put self-titled in C, and I'm going to move Distance Over Time into D.
I knew I could count on you, man.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know how to see it any differently than that.
I think that the
Well,
and
because
again,
there's
this
an
is-
album left below that I would argue belongs in a certain slot that I'm not going to say, but
Well,
So you
I
think Systematic Chaos is a D level, but compared to the
well,
others,
because
I don't.
because the way it's setting up, it's going to be an A or a B, and I think that's really high for Systematic Chaos.
Okay, so then what can I do
See what
here?
I'm saying? Yeah, no, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying you look at the albums ahead and you have to sort of lay out the landscape. That's what I'm saying.
I think
Well,
the thing that for me that album and Distance Over Time, sure, they're not very. To me, they're not very inventive albums. If I could say anything about a dramatic turn of events, I think there's some stuff on it that they did try to do, which was a little bit different. I think the self-titled and Distance Over Time just sound like DreamTheater trying to make a DreamTheater album. In the grand scheme of things.
So while Systematic Chaos is not so obviously 6 Degrees is going to be an S or A. Systematic Chaos for me is not worse than
Any of the other albums.
yeah. So I'm sorry. I'm going self-titled in C, and Distance Over Time is moving down to D. I'm sorry. Call it a Mike Portnoy thing. I don't care. It's just that's what's happening. That's what's happening.
He's not in either of them.
Yeah.
No, I know.
Exactly, right?
Can't
Okay,
blame him
so-
for any of that.
I want to say something. I think this album is strong and has a couple of really, really solid tracks. And I think Roy really hates this song, but it's one of my favorites, and that's The Bigger Picture. Is that the one you don't
I
like,
don't
Roy?
recall saying anything about hating it.
No, sorry. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else. But I think Enemy Side is an amazing single. It's a really, really good song. Behind the Veil is a great track. And Illumination Theory, that's the most frustrating part about this album for me. Because I think if this song was half as long as it is, it would be one of their best songs ever.
I think a lot of how we view these albums is in the order that they're released. And I have tried my best to listen back through these things, and I don't know, maybe because this one's so beat up on, I viewed it a little bit more highly, but I don't know, there's some great stuff on this, and I like the sound of this album.
I actually don't. My issue so much is that not that album shouldn't be in C. It's probably fine in C. The other albums, not being where they are, sort of is weird for me. But that's the game. Okay,
That's the nature
Geoff.
of the wheel.
It's not your fault.
Geoff puts
Not your fault,
Systematic Chaos.
Yeah,
Oh, I wonder.
I'm hoping you get 6 degrees.
I have an opportunity to wreak havoc.
Hey, there we go. Well, this is a great album, so I don't really care what you do.
He's putting it in S tier, and Awake is going back to C tier, and then
Oh,
he's
don't do that. Please don't do that. You can't do all that. It's only one move.
Daniel called it.
I know, I
6
cracked
degrees.
the code.
Nah, we said you can move it wherever you want.
6 degrees to me is a masterpiece. How do you
6
follow?
degrees should be an S. I agree.
How do you follow? How do you follow Scenes from a Memory? Answer: you do everything in one album, and that's what they did in that. Glass Prison, brilliant opener. I'm not particularly a fan of the heavier stuff, as I've said, but that one to me is really good. Misunderstood, creepy, powerful. 6 degrees.
Misunderstood's got like DJ scratches, though. I don't know.
6
You're not a
degrees.
fan of 6 degrees, Kyle?
I like it. I'm sad that Awake is getting taken out of S tier. I'm sorry. I know the album. I interrupted Geoff. Sorry, Geoff.
Sorry, yeah.
So, well, what I could do is put it in D and put the Astonishing into S.
No, no, you get to make one. You get to make one move. You only get to make one move.
Chill.
No, but I could do that. I could in theory.
No, that's true.
And could in theory do that, but I'm
this
not.
This is really a Sophie's choice for Geoff, isn't it?
I mean, and to be honest, I'm gonna be nice and I'm gonna bump. What I could do.
Put it in S. It belongs in S, Geoff. Do the right thing.
What I could do is bump Awake to B, but I'm not going to do that, and I don't need to do that because whoever places Systematic Chaos can pretty much bump it wherever they want. But yeah, I'm going to bump Awake to A tier and put Systematic Chaos on the top row.
I'm actually very happy
6 degrees
about this
on the 6 degrees on the top row. Not
this
honestly,
to me
I'm
now
okay
is starting to look more correct, so I'm very happy about this.
So 6 degrees is the first Dream Theater album I actually went to the store and purchased. All the other ones I'd gotten like copies of from a friend. So I remember like release day going and in Jonesboro, Arkansas, being like shocked that it even was in the record store. But it's a great album. For me, there's some uneven aspects of it that I don't maybe feel the same with some of the other stuff. And I feel like the second disc, Overture through to the End, there's some uneven spots in there. Like if you're comparing it like as a like disc one, like individual songs, you're comparing that to some of the best of Dream Theater's other CDs, or you're comparing like the the big disc, the 6 degrees disc, to like, let's say Scenes from Memory 2. It's not quite as good to me. I think it sounds good. I think it's cool. I think it's too much a product of its like early 2000s time. There's like a little bit too much leaning into kind of new metal like things. Like I said, like Misunderstood, some of the noise stuff on that, the DJ scratching stuff. Like
so epic. It's amazing.
I like the song, but some of the production, like direction and some of the soundscape stuff on it, I'm just not as big of a fan of. For me, it's a tier A album. I think it's a great album. I just, when people start putting it like top 2 or top 3, I don't know.
This honestly might, for me, this may be the album I still like listening to the most to this day. My only slight criticism of this record, and it's just I like albums that get streamlined a little bit. So there's moments like in the Overture on the second disc that are just a little too long, or Goodnight Kiss, I think, where there's just like this breathing that goes on for like a minute, like just moments like that where I would just snip that and just get to the song because the song is great. But those are minute kind of nitpicks. Like I like the diversity of the record. The first disc is so eclectic and really well done. The production's great. I just think this album's amazing. And to me, I'm just happy that at least S tier, by my estimation, is correct. We have
Yeah.
a correct row.
It's a top 4 or 5 album for me. I mean, like, I don't think there's any argument over it being in the top 2 tiers, but
Solitary Shell. I mean, God, it's so good. Like, this is really good stuff.
And The Great Debate, which in my opinion is Portnoy's
Debate's
best
cool.
drumline.
Great
one
Debate
of
is
the
just a
cooler
masterpiece.
things he's ever done. And
Yeah.
I mean that whole this album is just amazing.
Yeah.
And I was saying earlier that I think one of those 2 albums deserves a third place, like a bronze medal, and that's either 6 Degrees or Awake. And these to me are the only 2 options in my rankings.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, okay. Well,
I have
where
to
are you
say,
placing-
very
where are you
kind
putting
of
Systematic
Geoff.
Chaos.
Very, very, very kind of Jeff to
Very
keep that
kind.
name.
But I mean,
I have,
he
I have a feeling I know what's happening with Systematic Chaos. but
Daniel
go
has
ahead.
an opportunity here to correct an earlier.
Yeah, I think I know what's happening. Let's see what he does.
An earlier issue on row C.
an earlier issue. I don't really see an issue here. I'm
Is there
in
not
between
something
2
in row
moves.
C? Is there not something in row C that you think should be higher?
You think
Yeah.
a dramatic turn is, but I don't know if I agree.
That's the thing. It's tough because
Hey, are we going to spin the wheel or not?
yeah,
kidding.
please
I
mean,
spin
we
the
have
wheel.
to-
Go ahead.
Let's
Come
go
on,
spin
come
the
on.
wheel. Spin the wheel. Come on.
Spin the wheel. It's the name of the game, man. Remove it and spin. Wonder what I'm
The
getting.
guy doesn't land on it. Look at that. Well, that's amazing. All right. Where are you
Okay.
putting it?
None more black. The black album. Where would
So
you
I'm
place the
torn
black album
in
in this?
between options, man, because I could do a whole rearranging thing, but I don't know if I just put it in B and call it a day,
Do it.
man.
Do it.
It's not
It's not a B
There's
tier
better
album.
albums than that
It's
one.
not. Okay, I'm putting Dramatic in B and I'm putting it in C.
All right.
Sorry. I've talked about Dramatic. I will say a little bit about Systematic Chaos, which I think is an album that's has some, like, In the Presence of Enemies. It's one of my favorite songs. Ministry of Lost Souls is much like Elimination Theory, a song that I think could be shorter, but it's a really, really good song. I like the singles, even though they're like cheesy and sounds like Linkin Park sometimes, like Forsaken and Constant Motion. Actually, I think is a great song.
It's a great song.
Yeah, and Dark Eternal Night, I think at this point it's a modern classic. It's a song that when it came out I didn't necessarily love, but now I think it's really good. And what else? I think Repentance became one of my favorite songs on the 12-step suite.
That's my least favorite of the 12-step.
Yeah, I think it has such a cool vibe, man. I mean, it's just the way the keyboards rise and has the voices in the back. I think
What other song has Neil Morse, Stephen Wilson, and Steve Hogarth on it?
Yeah.
Plus Dream Theater.
I like the opening track a lot from that record, and then the rest I don't. It isn't my cup of tea.
To me, the lyrical direction, it's like too fantasy, too like dark, dragony.
I have with it. Yeah. The vampires and all that. I don't dig that stuff.
It's kind of a product of its time, because it was really cool to be edgy during that era, and do the Dark Eternal Night, man, that kind of thing.
I will say it has some of his best guitar riffs on that record.
Yeah.
Throughout.
Yeah.
He was really writing some killer guitar stuff.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the band was at at a really good point in like synergy and all of them like playing together and stuff. So seeing them live around that era was probably like a good spot to be in.
So okay, well, this is an interesting one. I mean, yeah, it's not. I think we settled on a decent mix. I mean, obviously, I think we all have some stuff we'd move around.
Dude, I moved like a couple of things around. This is very close to my tier list. Like very close. I'm surprised.
This is actually like pretty close to mine too.
Yeah.
So
if you had to do one swap to make it better for you, what would it be, Kyle?
That's a good question.
One for one.
For me, like Awake is a top 3 album, but I don't disagree with the way that this went, to be honest. Like I
think Falling Into Infinity, by most fans' estimation, is insanely high.
And I think most fans are wrong. I think that's a great album. I think, like, just because an album is inconsistent, let's say, like that
So what would you swap?
the highest
what would you
highs
swap
of
it for,
Falling
Roy?
in Infinity are higher than some of the other highest highs of albums.
I mean, if I had to pick one album to put instead of Falling, it would be Train of Thought. But if that was voted, I would say Black Clouds, I guess, would be the other one. But I think Falling into Infinity is, I just know it's not thought of in that light as a top 4 record.
Yeah,
who
but it's not
cares?
a top 4 here necessarily. I think we're not
Top
ordering
6.
within
It's not.
tiers.
Yeah, we can order them like,
Yeah,
like
I mean,
for me, like,
it's okay. I like the album. Again, I have a poster of it. I just don't think universally.
switch
That's
Falling in
the
Infinity
metric.
and Away.
I really love this album, man. I have a poster of it right
Yeah.
here.
No, I'm saying I don't dislike it. I'm just saying it's not how I think the order would be generally. That's all I mean.
In fairness, I think we don't all agree. Geoff doesn't, but Astonishing, Dream a Day, Unite, like those are D tier, I think, for most everyone.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a pretty good list. I mean, I think Black Clouds for a
think
lot
so,
of people
too.
is going to be higher. Train of Thought actually would be the one that's probably A tier for most people.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Dude,
I like it.
This is tough, but
It's not a
I like the
disastrous
tier
list.
list as well.
Who cares about most people?
Yeah, I agree,
Yeah.
Geoff.
I only
agree.
care about us.
So are we good?
So-
We're wrapping it up there.
Dude, I don't
Yeah.
know. Let's make a couple.
I think the
Let's do
only
the whole
thing,
thing,
the
I'm
only
not
thing
happy
that
with
could be
any of it.
done is we could decide, on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but that would get kind
Yeah.
of,
And that would take too long, and it's pointless at the
The
end of the
beauty
day.
is that it's that, but that's why kind of generally we're harmonious about where stuff is laid. It's roughly all the right place for us as a majority.
Not even for
But
the
what
four
do
of
you
us.
think, viewers?
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
think?
Well, I'm
Yeah,
sure there'll
what-
be some interesting thoughts on this.
Oh man,
those
I'm
comments.
ready.
Genuinely, I'm not. Yeah, I guess my biggest shock is probably Falling into Infinity being A. That would be my biggest shocker of.
Wait,
this
who put
list.
that there?
I don't know who did.
It was you, dude.
It was me. Yeah.
Oh, it was
No, it wasn't
Kyle.
me.
Okay, yeah.
That was Kyle.
No, it was me. I'm proud of
Yeah.
where it is. I think it
I'm with
deserves
you, yeah.
that. I have been so frustrated over the years of how like people view that album. So this is and I'll just throw this out there. It doesn't really track, but we don't have a Change of Seasons in here, but it's from that same era, that Derek era. And I don't know. I think it deserves a little more credit than it gets, that era of the band. So yeah.
Cool.
Deal with it, people.
That's right. Okay. Well, thanks guys, everybody, for joining.
Thank you,
And
guys,
it's cool. We're all very
Post your tier list in the comments. Say how much wrong we are, how wrong we are, how right you are, right? Because
Yeah. And join us for another episode of Wheel of Prog. But before that, just a reminder to subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so on, progreport.com and socials and everywhere else. And we want to hear your comments on this. What did we get wrong? What did we get right? And where you would put some of these albums. And and stay tuned for whatever else is coming up next on the channel. I don't know what it'll be.
please leave a comment and say
Lord
what other
Nefarious.
band- Lord Nefarious, there he is.
Emperor,
Emperor
please.
Nefarious, yeah. Leave a comment saying what other bands you'd like to see on the Wheel
of Prog.
Prog.
All right. Bye, everybody. We'll see you later. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on all our socials and on progreport.com for all your news, interviews, reviews, and more. And we'll see you again real soon.